Moira received a pretty crazy buff recently. Fade jumps now launch the player much higher than they used to. Instead of showing you every single one of these crazy jumps and their locations, let's talk about how this will impact the character, her mobility, and the game in question. Moira has been pretty dormant for quite a while. Baptiste, Brigitte, and Zenyatta have been reigning champions within the meta since August of 2021. However, with this new change, Moira may see some increased playtime at higher ranks. Her fate allows for her to compensate for the only glaring problem she really has, and that was her lack of vertical mobility. Her fate now allows her to get to places she's never been able to before. But why is this a big deal? To understand this, we must look at the 6-man dive composition, which is comprised of Winston, D.Va, Tracer, Sombra, Moira, and Lucio. Swap out the Tracer for Reaper, and now you have a brawl composition that still functions similarly, only with the Winston changing the way he uses his jumps and how the team engages. This impacts the way the Tracer variant is played much more than the Reaper version, as the Reaper version rotates together more and the Tracer version is played to set up their Tracer primarily. Before, Moira couldn't fade onto specific areas that fights commonly occurred at, like Hanamura's second point on the high ground. Now, however, she can fade into the engagement with many different locations, allowing for the dive composition to aggress for longer, pressuring and overwhelming the enemy team. This is big because now the margin of error is larger than it ever has been before, in turn making it more effective and applicable on more maps. You can see these opportunities on many different maps. Many of you know Shocker, who commonly helps with the creation of many of my videos, but this week, he's making his own fade jump video. I suggest looking there to learn some of these jumps to engage with. Now that I have discussed why these changes are good and the impacts it has on the characters, I have to ask the question, are these changes worth it and do they really mean anything? In other words, are these good changes? In short, no. While it does buff Moira, a character that hasn't seen much playtime, it is important to understand that the problems the game is currently facing are much different. Brigitte, Baptiste, and Zen are incredibly strong right now, and in my opinion, there's just no need to buff Moira, and there's a much greater need to nerf Brigitte or Baptiste. If you think about it, Moira never really had a problem when both of these characters weren't in the game. It's the fact that Baptiste can heal and do the same, if not more, on top of that. It's the fact that Brigitte can keep characters like Zenyatta alive, making Moira's survivability worthless. So what changes really were needed? I am by no means a game developer, and that isn't my job. Brigitte's experimental changes, however, made the characters still feel very impactful without completely killing her either. The numbers weren't perfect, but it was a change in the right direction for the character. As for Baptiste, a damage reduction field on a shorter cooldown could do a lot for the character, along with slight tweaks to his overall damage and healing output. But with all of the suggestions out of the way, on this channel, I always try to bring situations back to team play scenarios in the scrim environment. So how do these changes affect team play? Realistically, a 6-man dive composition can beat the aggressive ball tracers and brig compositions when played correctly on most maps. So the real question is, how does dive stand up against its current counterpart, spam? That is a difficult question to answer without due experience, and currently I'm willing to bet that with Moira's change, 6-man dive compositions will be able to outlast the pressure during the engagement with her consistent heals. Before it was just a matter of getting Moira to high ground, but that really isn't a problem anymore. Getting 70 healing per second on high ground is quite a big deal when it's against spam, but nonetheless, until I have thorough experience on the character within scrims, we'll just have to wait and see. If you do want to see some of the fade jumps, I will link the fade jump montage made by Shocker down below. I will also link a few other notable Moira players to look for in the description that eat, sleep, and breathe this character. Also, thank you so much for supporting the channel recently. We've seriously grown the community over the past few weeks, and it's super awesome to see. That being said, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching the video, but until next time, I've got to peace out and paz out. I'll see you in the next one.